What is up, y'all? And welcome back to another episode of Chronicles of a Virgo podcast. And as usual, I'm your favorite Virgo host, Shakita Johnson. And happy Wednesday, y'all. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's day and week is off to a fabulous start. And I hope everyone's month of January is continuing to be awesome. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. Just know that your girl is sending you lots of love and some good old positive vibes your way. So go ahead and open them hearts, them arms, and embrace all of this good old energy that I'm sending you. And again, thank you guys for joining me back for another episode. So today we have the first guest of 2024. And because of this guest story and this guest expertise, I felt that it was a good person to feature for the first episode to start off the year, a way to help keep us grounded and in a positive mindset to get through the rest of this year. Because this guest today has done that with the reinvention of herself numerous times, and to go from a traumatic past, and she turned all of those things into a prosperous and purposeful life that she is currently living. And we're going to get into that. Our guest of the hour today is Miss Michelle J Lamont, who hosts an award-winning podcast called Manifesting Miracles, which is also one of the first podcasts that your girl tapped into years ago. Kind of had a fangirl moment. So I was so honored for this whole entire interaction and just to know Michelle as a person. She is a spiritual life coach. She is also a multi-business owner. She has been featured in numerous articles, magazines, as well as been on TV, okay? Because your girl been out there doing her PR work and working in Hollywood, all right? So she's an amazing person. And like I said, she has created the life of her dreams, and she is still creating, but she is also bringing others on that journey and helping people and motivating others to create the life that they deserve. All right. So we got into all of those things. So I want you guys to sit back, open your minds, your hearts, and just embrace Michelle in this whole conversation. See you guys at the end. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another lovely conversation here at the Chronicles of a Virgo podcast. And as you guys see, I have a wonderful, beautiful guest sitting with me today. I'm going to try not to have another fangirl moment, but guys, this is Miss Michelle J Lamont. How are you doing today, lady?
I am blessed and never stressed.
Hey, oh, I like that. Blessed and never stressed. Okay. So you guys heard her intro, but we're going to get into some things in this conversation. And I'm going to give Miss Michelle her flowers before we start anything. So, and we're going to talk about all this. And I just have to get it out now because I'm like overly overjoyed for this conversation. So, Michelle has a lovely podcast, Manifesting Miracles, with Miss Michelle J Lamont. Okay, I founded her podcast back in 2019 when I was going through like a horrific time in my life. And I think it was like near like 2020, like when COVID and stuff started. I lost my grandmother. And I can't remember verbatim the episode that I was specifically listening to, but I was like, I'm going to DM this lady. She may or may not respond. To my surprise, she responded. And I was just letting it be known of my emotions at the time with my grief, because like many of us struggle with grief, right? And
Yes.
when I tell you the things that you said to me in that message thread have impacted my grief journey till this day, my friends know about you, my family knows about you, because the things you
Oh my
said helped
gosh.
me draw things. I still struggle with it. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
You had me go listen to a specific episode about your grief and your journey, but the things you said to me in that message gave me so much like fulfillment.
Mm.
I still can't comprehend a lot of things around it, but it has made my journey a little bit more light. And for that, I want to thank you for that.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you for saying that and sharing that and expressing that. I definitely don't respond to DMs to get accolades, but it sure is nice to hear it.
Yes, and then you definitely deserve it because that was a very tough time for me, and you didn't initially know until you allowed me the space to just open up. So again, I just thank you for that, and thank you for just being you. Yeah, I just wanted to get that out, give you your flowers.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
because as I
Receive,
said,
receive, receive.
yes, I did not foresee this conversation happening, but I think I manifested it.
Absolutely, you manifested it. Yeah.
Yes. So let's start off with my lovely mental health check that I like to do. Rating our mental health on a scale of 1 to 5. So for you, how is your mental health today on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being that you're in a really good space, 1 being you're not in the best space, have some room for pouring, but you're doing okay.
I would say I'm a 4.2.
Okay. Okay, we 4.2, and so we up there, but we have some room for some pouring, but we're managing things, right?
Yeah, yeah. You're still human no matter what.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna say today I'm probably like a 4.5, only because something is going on with my neck. So the physical part is just like taking me out, but mentally I'm
Mm.
so grateful to be stable. It's been a long time coming with my own mental health journey. So I'm feeling good, feeling great. Besides the neck, I do these mental health checks as a way to just encourage everyone to take some time to check in with themselves, these do some deep breathing, see where the discomfort may be in your body, your mind, and just really check in with yourself and pour into yourself in those moments. So I thank you for taking the time to even do the mental health check.
Absolutely, my honor.
Yeah. So I read your intro. And like I
Mm.
said, it was more of like your professional intro, some wonderful things that you have accomplished in your timeline. But let's get into who was Michelle before all that, like the things that happened in your life that may have led up to where you are now, as much as you feel comfortable with sharing.
Like birth to date or spiritual awakening to today?
Maybe birth to date, because I feel like
Okay.
it, correct me if I'm wrong, birth to date has maybe somewhat to do with your spiritual awakening.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just didn't know. All
Mhm.
right. So, okay, perfect. Let me answer it. So, I am a first generation American. I'm Colombian American. And my brothers were born in Colombia. At the age of 10, I lived for the first 10 years of my life quite a posh life. We flew around the world. We went to Disneyland. We had vacations. We had a housekeeper. Very nice, cush life. I was never yelled at in my entire life.
Mhm.
I was just told, like, you're going to be the first female president. And you have to remember, like, my mom learned English on Sesame Street. She came from literally dirt floors, like not dirt poor, like she lived on dirt.
Mm.
And to come to the United States on a modeling visa, and then marry an American who was financially secure, she was really living her American dream. And she had 5 children under the age of 12 when she was diagnosed with undifferentiated lymphomic cancer. And within 6 months, she died at MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, Texas, July 17th. And my birthday's in October. Started school in August. And before my 11th birthday, my father picked me up from junior high and drove me, didn't tell me anything, drove me 3.5 hours away and gave me away to an orphanage and kept my brothers and my younger sister.
Mm.
And so I was immediately ripped out from this very secure, very nice life where everybody catered to me. Um, and I just, lived in a bubble
Mm.
to verbal, physical, and sexual abuse from the age of 11 to 17. And met girls who parents had pimped them out. I didn't even know what sex was. I never even was cognizant of that at 10 or 11. And I met girls that were 11 who had been prostituting since the age of 7,
Mm.
drug addicts. And the thing about it, when you're in an orphanage, nobody really cares about the brown and the black children. We just become disposable. And so it's an easy target for people who have devious ideologies about children and sexuality to prey on us.
Mm.
And so it became a feeding ground. And if you told anybody, it got worse. So from that point forward, I got myself to college and was top of my class because I hid in the library all the time and would just read. And I got myself to college, and by my sophomore year, met my future husband, who within 5 years would become one of the worst abusers in my life. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, verbally, and definitely spiritually. He was an atheist. Even though all that had happened, I still believed in God because of my mother's upbringing. And through that marriage and through my life, I just said, there is no God. That doesn't exist. That's not real. That's like Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And started just deciding that I was going to be successful in my businesses. So I started my first business right after college with $250 in the bank and a car that went in first, third, and reverse. And by year 3, working catering jobs, bar backing, shot girls, delivering pizzas, you name it, I did it. Didn't matter. Hostessing, waitress, cocktail, whatever. I started this business, and by year 3, I was about $27,000 in debt. And by year 5, I was doing over $1 million in sales. Mm-hmm. And so before the age of 30, I was quite successful. I had multiple stores in Dallas, Texas, which is a very prestigious city with a big population. And I had them in malls. So I was always next to a Nordstrom's or a Neiman Marcus, something like that. And then Al Gore invented the internet, and and there was no more malls really, because the malls were the center of the world. Like all the boy bands would play in the malls, and Britney Spears and everything. It was the center of life. So then the internet happened, and I had to close my mall stores down, and I took a leap of faith and opened a public relations agency. And this time I was profitable in 45 days. Mm. And then I would go on to work red carpets, major athletes, every type of big, powerful person in the world. I was just instantly working with them. Mm-hmm. And my home life got worse and worse and worse. Mm-hmm. So that said, I just decided that in 2015, I had had enough, and I filed for divorce. And I was so depressed and drinking all the time, never spoke to any kind of spirituality, any type of energy of that nature. I was a very angry person. I had a lot of vitriol. I decided that as soon as I was done with my divorce, that I would unalive myself. Mm-hmm. So I was divorced April 6th, and April 23rd, 2016, I attempted to unalive myself. I survived. And from that point forward, I had made a choice that since the pills didn't work and trying to drown myself didn't work, that I was going to get a gun. And the reason that I didn't do the gun the first time was because I went to a gun shop or a gun class, and they said that most women who try to kill themselves with a gun change their minds at the last minute, and they move their head, and then they end up like paraplegic or in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. Because women end up making like, oh, well, I have children, or I have family, or whatever. And so I was very concerned that would be me. I'm a bad aim. I have no aim. And B, I thought I might be that person. So I was sitting at home angry that I had failed at suicide. I had contacted and wrote letters to people in my family telling them that I was dead. And to walk that backwards is a big humble pie. And I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden I look up at the ceiling, and I said, all right, if you don't want me dead and you're going to force me to be here, God, if you really exist, I used to say Santa Claus in the sky. If you really exist, then you have to make this change, and you have to do something with me, because I know in a couple of days I won't be here. And if this is really what it is for me, you need to change it. And within an hour, I was just laying there, just looking at the ceiling, crying, and like hitting the bed with my arms, and just so angry. My television comes on, and I'm looking for the remote to turn it off. And the remote is in front of the television, and it comes on YouTube. And my nieces would watch YouTube all the time. I didn't know what YouTube was at the time. I was so enthralled in the PR world that wasn't on my radar. I mean, I think my agency did YouTube stuff for other people. I just wasn't aware of it But the girls watched Grey's Anatomy on YouTube. They were obsessed with it, and they're now on nursing school and they're going to be doctors. So it explains a lot. Yeah. So it comes on, and this white man comes on TV, and he's walking across the stage with a little white beanie on and a little white sweater and linen pants, and he just simply says, when you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at change. And there was just something in that moment that said, listen. And I ended up watching him for the next 14 hours until Half Price Books opened in my pajamas with a pizza in my mouth, drove. I mean, I was like pathetic, Bill. Drove to Half Price Books. I walk in, look so disheveled. The guy screams, "No homeless!
Oh,
No
no.
homeless!" I was like, "Nah, bro, I just pulled up in a BMW, man. Like, I'm not homeless, you know?"
Right.
And I was like, "No, no, no." He's like, "You're not homeless?" I'm like, "No, I have a house. Like, I don't know if I want it, but you want it, you know?" And he says, I was like, "Do you have any books by this man named Dr. Wayne Dyer?" And he looks it up, and he's like, "Well, he has 44 books." And I said, "Take me to the area." And they only had 22 books. So I bought all 22 books, and I sat down and I started to read them. And by the third or fourth book, I realized that he was talking to me. And I decided that I was going to hire him. I was like, well, I have $3,000 in my bank account, and I'm just going to make him get on a call with me because I think this man is trying to tell me something. And he had died. And I was devastated. I was like, and I then went on to understand that he was talking to me and that he was guiding me and he was trying to help me and that he had a plan for me to have a voice like he had. So I go back to school for my mindfulness cognitive therapy degree, not because I wanted to be a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatric doctor. It was because I really wanted to understand how could I have gotten to that state through all the things. I had 5 miscarriages, C-section scar, no baby, drinking a gallon of alcohol a day, living in an abusive home where you're walking on eggshells, coming from, so much trauma in my childhood. And I only saw myself as somebody who could make money. Like that was my only purpose in life. Like now it was like make people famous and make money. And I hated that aspect about myself, so I go back to school, I get my mindfulness cognitive therapy, and they brain map me, and they tell me that during that time, they saw that my amygdala was extremely engorged. And when you have an engorged amygdala, it's not like you have a headache or you have any symptoms. What happens is that you automatically get triggered. So somebody cuts you off in traffic, triggered. Somebody has too many items in the basket, triggered. Somebody talks to you some kind of way, triggered. The family member who always knows how to push your buttons walks in the room, you're already buck up.
We all got one of those.
We all got one of those. So when our amygdala, which is on either side of our ears, right above our ears, is triggered, the RAS and the activation system part of our brain cannot process information to the frontal cortex. So the amygdala stops it like a very big speed bump, and it goes, hold on, you want to take a risk? Remember when you took that risk and it failed? We're not doing that. Don't do it. Stay where you are. Stay in the broken relationship. Stay in the broken job. Stay with the friends that are using you. Stay with the guy that doesn't really love you. Stay with the people who are cheating on you. Like, it's better to be safe and know the devil that you have than try to go and find something better. And the only thing, believe it or not, that can reduce the triggered amygdala of your trauma of your childhood is meditation. And I'm over here ADD, taking Adderall, drinking alcohol by the gallon, excuse me. And I'm like, I have to sit down and be quiet. And they were like, yeah, that's the only thing that's going to save your life. And I thought, well, I'm going to die because I can't do that. So I started with 30 seconds and then I worked up to a minute. Now I can do an hour 3 times a day with no music, no sound. I can do it in the airport. I have a master meditations certificate, a mindfulness certificate, mindfulness cognitive therapy accreditations, life coach. And so as I started to heal and go through this journey and open up these things, I really questioned whether I should be doing publicity anymore, because although it paid crazy money and I was really, really good at it, I just didn't find any fulfillment in it. And because money was no longer a motivator to me, I really didn't care if I lost my house. I really didn't care where I lived. I could have been homeless and been happy, honestly. Um, because I was finally at peace with being Michelle Juanita Lamont. And I started to go to retreats, and I was still taking PR jobs to pay my life, and go to retreats, go working with high level coaches and psychic coaching and angel classes and all this sort of thing. 30-day silent Buddhist retreats, interviewing priests, interviewing clerics, interviewing monks, interviewing everybody in the religious sector to see what they thought God was. It was just this mind that I had of curiosity that was just leading me to the next chapter, that I began to heal all of the traumas in my life, one by one, step by step. And all of a sudden, I just didn't have this fear about taking risks or making decisions that were not protected. And I never had anybody ever worry about me. So from the age of 10 and a half, nobody ever said, is Michelle hungry? Has Michelle eaten? Does Michelle have a Christmas present? Does Michelle have a birthday present? And to go from somebody doting over you 24 hours a day to somebody abusing you almost every single day, my little brain was just broken.
Yeah.
And so was my heart, and so was my body. And I just didn't know how to crawl out of that hole. And so I married the first person that I met because I was scared anybody else might come get me or hurt me. And it was protection, and he was tall and he was white. So I was like, oh, everyone's going to like him, like there's no problems there. And so for me, for people who are in that type of situation where they know there was somebody that they shouldn't be, it's okay. But just know that you deserve better.
Definitely.
And yeah. And so I eventually got to the point where I was really understanding how to master energy. And it would start with like lighting a candle and then making the flame go out, and then lighting an incense and making the incense move all the way to the left and all the way to the right and straight up and straight down. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I can do a parking spot. And then a parking spot would happen. And then I was like, well, one time I remember I was at Target and I said, okay, all the lines are full. If I'm really mastering my energy, a clerk is going to walk right up, point to me, and open a checkout. And the clerk goes, ma'am, I'll help you. And I was like, and what kind of avatar game is this? And so I was like, all right, universe, I'm interested now. You have my attention. If you're really listening and you're here to help me, and this is a divine guidance, I want 3 things in 30 days. I want a TED Talk. I want a one-on-one with Oprah, and I want a customer for $10K a month. And if you give me all 3 things in the next 30 days, I will leave being a TV media publicist and I will start working in the spiritual realm. And I had just applied to TED Talk at Dallas, and there was 3,000 applicants and only 5 slots, 5 positions. So I'm at a TV gig, and this older woman was sitting there, and the ABC station that I was at happened to have an indoor Starbucks on campus. And so we were in a commercial waiting for this police chase to end to go do our segment. And I asked the older woman, I said, would you like something from Starbucks? And she was like, oh, don't worry about me. I was like, well, I'm going anyway. Let me help you. And so I got her a Starbucks. I got her a cake pop. And I sit down and I start talking to her. And she said, what do you do? She was like, well, do you do PR full time? And I said, well, actually, I'm getting out of PR. And it was the first time I'd said it out loud. And she was like, really, what are you going to do? And I said, well, you may not understand it, but I think I'm going to be a manifestation coach. And she goes, she was like, can you give me an elevator speech on that? Well, I had just written my TEDx speech on manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yes, I have a 5 minute. I was like, you have 5 minutes? And she was like, yeah, go. So I like stood up, I took a sip of my coffee. I gave, grandma the whole presentation. And, and I thought she was gonna be like my grandma, giving me a good job,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And she looks at me and she goes, have you ever heard of TEDx? And I said, yeah. She goes, they're auditioning here in Dallas. I said, yeah, I just applied. And she goes, huh, so you put everything in the system? I said, yeah. She goes, interesting. They have 5 slots. And I was like, how do you know that? And I was like, yeah. I was like, do you even know what the internet is? I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, they do. She's like, well, they actually only have 4. I said, they made it smaller? She goes, no, you just won the first seat. I'm the president of TEDx.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
10 days later, an old intern of mine, see, it's much more difficult in a market like Dallas to be a Black publicist. Like it or not, and even in the most modern situations, there's so much prejudice that goes on, that it makes it very difficult for Black women to get into that industry unless you're only working in the Black industry, like certain athletes or actors or stuff like that, like if you specialize. So this young lady, she was from Nigeria and she had a son, and she calls me at the last minute and says, can you come and sit at my media table? I have this event and none of my people showed up. And it's like a Tuesday, it's raining. And if you're going to go sit at a media table, you got to wear Spanx, you got to put makeup on, you got to look cute. I was like, I don't think so, because I have to get dressed and drive 45 minutes. Like, is there anybody else can help you? No, Michelle, nobody can help me. It's very important, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, because I knew how important it was that she got this big hotel, and how important that night was. So I get in my car, I drive 45 minutes. I said, well, I'm not wearing Spanx. She was like, that's fine. I was like, okay. And so I drive down there. And as soon as I get there, Adani says, why are you here? I said, what do you mean? She's like, I messaged you 3 times. And I said, I open up my phone, no message. And I said, you didn't message me. She opens up her phone. She shows 3 missed calls. I have no missed calls. And she was like, she showed up. And I was like, what? So I'm almost angry for like 5 seconds. I said, no, I'm not going to be angry. Okay. The universe is doing something here. And she goes, well, if you can stay until the group photo, I can give you a free weekend here at the W, because all the press kits include like 3 days, 2 nights, but you got to pay for your alcohol and your food and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I can take the girls, my nieces, to a cute little weekend here at the W, whatever. So as I do that, I go and sit down and I see this woman just like hacking away on her blueberry, on her blueberry, on her BlackBerry.
Geez, I ain't
And
heard them phones in a long time.
well, when you work in security type of businesses, they make you use Blackberries. And so she had her iPhone and her Blackberry, because the iPhone is too easy to hack, where the Blackberry is very, even like senators use Blackberries still, everybody, because it's encrypted so much better than iPhones.
Gotcha.
So I see her iPhone and I see her Blackberry, and she's just like, I can hear her little nails, And all of a sudden, I just hear in my head, ask her if you can help her. And I was like looking around and I hear it again. And I was like, her? It's like, I don't think she wants me to talk to her. Like, she's like, I was like, no, I don't think that's her. And they're like, yeah, talk to her. So I was like, oh shit. So I go and I sit down and I was like, hi. And she stops for like 2 seconds. She goes, can I help you? And I said, I know we don't know each other, but I think the universe wants me to help you. And she's like looking around. She goes, are you talking to me? And I said, yes. And she was like, and how is this supposed to happen? And I said, I don't know, but I am looking for case studies, because I'm going to be a manifestation coach. I just said it out loud. Like, I almost stopped myself, but I didn't. And I said, and I need to prove that what I'm teaching works and changes lives. And I would love to help you help your life get better. And she's literally staring a hole through me, like she can't decide if she wants to throw me off the balcony or if she wants to try this out. And in that moment, both of us had a mutual friend from ABC who walked over, Shannon, and she was like, Michelle, she's like, how they let you in here? You're media, you're not a reporter. And I was like, yeah, I was working the desk. And the chick on the BlackBerry goes, do you know her? And she was like, yeah. She's like, Michelle was the person that helped me get my child adopted because she gave me all this great advice and she helped me pray on it and she helped me do this and she helped me do that. And she was like, well, she just came over here and started talking to me and telling me about the universe and like telling me she wanted a case study. She was like, if Michelle wants to help you, you should do it. So we get to talking, we take our group picture, then we all decide we're going to leave. So we go down to the end of the elevator. And as we're leaving the lobby of the W, I said, all right. And her name was Kayla Tucker Adams. And I said, Kayla, what, I said, let's get together on Monday and Wednesday. We exchanged phone numbers. And I said, before we leave, let's all leave on a high. I said, Shannon, and we're like hugging each other in the lobby. I said, Shannon, what's the best thing that's happened this week? And she said, my daughter rolled over.
Mm.
I said, oh, that's awesome. And I go, Kayla, what's the best thing that's happened to you this week? And she looks to the right and then she looks to the left and she said, well, I just got the contract to bring Oprah Winfrey to Dallas. And I was like, what did you say? And I said, what do you mean bring Oprah to Dallas? She's like, oh, she's going to have a secret. She's going to show up at this charity event. And it's just like, they're going to start publicizing it in 10 days and this, and that. And I was like, can you get me on the Oprah carpet? And she was like, I absolutely can. She's like, that doesn't mean you're going to meet her or you're going to interview. I said, the angels are taking care of that. Don't worry about that. Just get me on that carpet. And within 10 minutes of being at the carpet, Oprah's publicist comes out and says, nope, 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 no to everybody in my line. So everybody starts moving because we know we're not going to get an interview. And I just stood there. And Oprah comes out and I gave her a Dr. Wayne Dyer quote. As she was walking past me, she turns around, she goes, what'd you say?
Mm-hmm.
And I said it again. And she goes, you know what? Thank you very much for bringing my late great friend, Dr. Wayne Dyer, into this energy, into this room. She's like, what do you do? And I said, I'm a manifestation coach. Can I ask you a question? And I had my little iPhone and I'm just hitting record. I thought it was the next week. It's a whole thing. You got to listen to the episode to find out all the nitty gritties on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my phone out and I said, I said, Dr. Wayne Dyer says, I'm a realist. I expect miracles. For people trying to manifest Oprah-sized miracles, what, Oprah, do you say to them? And she was like, damn, that is a great question. And she proceeds to talk to me for almost 9 minutes. And now everybody is coming down the carpet like, who is this nobody talking to the queen? And everybody's taking pictures and videos. They're trying to look on the carpet. I don't have a sign on the carpet because they put your sign in front of you on the floor to tell you, like, if you're with a media outlet, how many people are in the outlet. Like, if you were in a smaller market, it might say market 117. And if you're a publicist and you're walking Oprah down the carpet, you're not stopping for market 117. Mm-hmm. So I don't have anything on the floor. There's no identifying markers. And everybody's like taking all these videos and pictures. And then Oprah reaches across, puts her hands on top of mine. She says, you have the light. You have it. Wow. And I was like, then I get one of my friends from ABC has a cancellation, says, Michelle, aren't you teaching an angel class at the YMCA? And I was like, yeah, it's like $12 a person. And she was like, why don't you come on Sunday after our church talk and do a segment? Like, go on and I do a segment about my angel class at the YMCA. And a woman watching reaches out to me and says, hey, I need a publicist and a spiritual coach, and I'm going to pay you $10,000 a month, and I'm going to give you the first 6 months up front. She writes me a check for $60K. And all 3 happened in 30 days. And at that point, I go to my Instagram. I changed it from TV media publicist to manifestation coach. And within 2 years, I would start my podcast called Manifesting Miracles with Michelle J Lamont, with no advertising, no guests, and absolutely no marketing. In 3 years, I just hit right under 500,000 listeners, 500,000 downloads, a $99 mic, me and the universe. And since that moment, the things that I've manifested have really almost blown me away, to be honest with you. So that's where we are now. And the one thing that no matter what you believe about yourself or your life, I can tell you in this moment in time that there is absolutely nothing that you've ever done, that you ever will do, or that you could ever think that you're not worthy of, that the universe is completely prepared to give you. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your orientations or your proclivities are. All it matters is that at this moment in time, the universe has brought you to this interview to challenge you to say, why not you?
Oh, girl, I get chills every time I hear you speak. Like, it's just because, like, of course, like that part of your journey, like I didn't know who you were and anything, but like coming into like meeting you and hearing you on your podcast and other podcasts, seeing you on the news for segments
Yeah.
and different things, I'm like, I watched you manifest the house you live in right now. Like
Yep.
your waterfront. Like I literally watched you go through all of these transitions. So to be from that, that innocent kid that had your innocence, taken from you up to the woman that you are now, it's just like it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you said, it doesn't matter where you come from, the trials and tribulations, those things, like they do play a part in our life, right? However, they do not determine our path.
Only you do.
Exactly. And thank you so much for just even, getting vulnerable enough to share your story with me and everyone that's listening. And my hopes is that someone has heard your story today and they are able to look at their life a little differently. One question that I do have is, at any point when you started to evolve and manifest all these good things, did you ever deal with imposter syndrome because of like your upbringing and stuff like that?
I think what it was for me was that I had turned into such a very angry person and such a kind of diabolical person. I was really living the villain story of my life, where I was really just like tapped into negativity, and I was the first person to gossip about anybody. To then really heal from that through shadow work and meditation and doing all these things that I did, and even going back to school and understanding how to reprogram your brain, that when I changed my Instagram, I had this moment where I was like, man, I have to be perfect. In order for me to ask people to step into their season, to step into their timeline, and to release these negative thoughts about you can't have it and it's not possible and all that other stuff, then I have to literally basically be able to walk on water. And so there, in the beginning, I had this ideology like I couldn't be Michelle anymore. I had to be Saint Michelle. And then I didn't feel worthy of giving that information to people. And so it was a little bit harder in the beginning. And I met with this monk, and he said, well, your job is to lead, not to die on a cross. And so if you live an honest, authentic life and you say things exactly how they are, then you're going to help a lot more people than being pie in the sky, too perfect, because people are going to say, well, I could never do that and I could never have that. He's like, your fallibility is what's going to make you authentic. And so lean into your flaws and lean into the things that you're not great at and that you're not, perfect at, because that's where people will find their commonalities, and that's where people will feel seen and heard, because they're not perfect and they have these issues and they have these problems. So lean in. And I was like, okay. So, I have a digital course called Imposter Syndrome. And that's one of the things that I talk about, because there's I think 8 or 10 different variations of imposter syndrome. And once you identify which one you are, then you can work through those. But everybody suffers from that in some way, even if, even if you're Mariah Carey, you wonder if you really are a great singer. Even if you're Adele, even if you're Beyonce, Beyonce was just Beyonce, right? She was a daughter to some very creative and powerful people. And all of a sudden she opened up her voice and there it was, right? And so everybody has that moment. And working in the media industry as long as I did, I can tell you, working around athletes and actors and actresses and reality stars and all of that sort of thing, those people are some of the most insecure people that ever walked the planet. And they're doing great big things.
Yeah, and I think I do follow some blogs and things. I don't really tap into the reality TV show no more. Just too
Yeah.
much toxicity. But as
Yes.
far as like the blogs and stuff and podcasts, you hear a lot more now that a lot of these celebrities and things are dealing with insecurities, are dealing with mental health things. And I think the first thing people always assume is, why? You have it all. You have all the money, you have cars, houses, because the people are realizing like materialistic things don't make you happy. But you're
Absolutely not.
having your inner peace, your inner joy, your happiness, those are the things that really matter, and everything else comes like second nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad you made that point. When we talk about manifestations, I think one big concept that I learned through just my healing journey and listening to different audiobooks from Dr. Wayne Dyer, Abraham Hicks, Joe Dispenza, the list goes on. Everyone talks about this inspired action. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that I have personally struggled with in the past is like, when do I take action? How do you know that something that is implanted in your brain to do is actually the inspired action you're supposed to take that's going to lead you to the next step in your journey?
You mean, why should you do that? Because what if you fail?
Yeah, because I feel like for me and maybe someone else that's listening, like you have an end goal and you
Mm-hmm.
may not have all the steps to get you there, but then something may come up and like, hey, do this. And you are struggling. Like I struggle a lot with, should I do this? Should I not do this? So how do you discern if you should move forward?
Yeah. So the universal laws, there's 12 universal laws, and there's the law of action.
Mm-hmm.
First, let's start with a great quote from Martin Luther King. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. So that to me is all the instruction you need. Second, any guesses on how many times it took Edison to make a light bulb? He's sitting there in his little science lab before there's any light bulbs or anything, and he's just tinkering away trying to make a light bulb.
I feel like this is a question I should know and I don't, but maybe twice.
So Edison discovered and created the light bulb on his 1,000th try.
1,000th?
Yes. So if Edison had stopped at 50 or 20 or 200 or 700 or 800, even 998, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would all be sitting in the dark, or somebody else would get credit for it. And every single time that the light bulb didn't turn on, he said he learned something new about how to try it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you are in clear channel communication, meaning if you're great at meditation and you meditate all the time, you won't have this. When you have that kind of doubt, it's your amygdala. So your brain is trying to say, like, don't take risks, don't get hurt, don't be embarrassed, don't lose your good thing. This isn't really worth it. They're trying to keep you. The safety of the amygdala's job is to make sure that you're not in this position again to fail or to be hurt. But there is no failure. So if you can see that you've learned something from every single time that you tried, then it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it, it's like, oh my God, I put all my eggs in that basket and it failed. Well, then you were going to fail from it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at all the things that have happened in your life and you say, okay, you know what? You know what I learned? I learned that maybe I shouldn't get into cars with strangers because they may want to touch me. I learned that maybe I should ask more questions when I get on a job interview because maybe this isn't the best work environment for me. Maybe I should be more discerning when it goes to dating people because I've really been burned on dates. And so now I can kind of tell, like, I'm falling back into the red flag zone with these guys or these girls or they, them, their people that I'm dating.
Mm-hmm.
And so every single chance that you have to take a risk, you have to think about the other side. If I didn't do it, I'm going to stay exactly where I am. But if I do it and it doesn't get the result that I want, what could I have learned from it?
I like that.
And then the what that I learned from it, it gets you to the light bulb.
Do you think that you're at your light bulb moment now in your life?
Oh no, I definitely think that I have no idea what's coming next. I look at life as a great big long adventure. I cannot wait to see what the avatar known as Michelle J Lamont is going to manifest today. Like this morning, I always wake up, I kneel before I stand, and I waked up, and after I got up, I always say, I challenge you to show me a bigger miracle today. And the first thing that popped into my head was a rainbow. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a little bit too hot for a rainbow. I don't, see we're going to have any rain, but okay. And I go to walk my dog, Wayne, my dog's name is Wayne Dyer, Wayne Dyer Lamont. So I go to walk Wayne. And as we're walking, this woman, just a little Karen, speed walking past me. And she has this big old rainbow on her shirt.
Oh, wow.
And the word Trump on it, but that's why I called her Karen. So okay. So she walks right past me, and there was my rainbow, and I just start laughing and laughing and laughing, and she's just moving her hips and her hands, and excuse me, like there isn't a whole other side of the street you can't walk on, Karen. Like this is an 80-pound dog. He's not moving that fast. Like we walking on this side, excuse me. Excuse me, and I don't move. I'm stubborn. I'm Scorpio. I'm like, nope. I was like, so the universe is sending you signs all the time. They're always communicating with you. Your team of angels and light are really tuned into your vibration. And the universe doesn't really care whether you're happy or sad. The universe doesn't care if you're rich or poor. The universe doesn't care if you feel seen or unseen. All the universe is doing is responding to the vibrational reality in which you feel worthy of. And when I started to understand this and really play along in that matrix, everything in my reality started to change. And so therefore, the risks I took were hard and scary and scared the crap out of me. And I thought like, oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? And what if now that I've told my suicide story on the air and, 279,000 people have listened to that episode, if this doesn't work, how could I ever get insured to work in PR again? Like all those thoughts came to me, but I quell those because I meditate, because fear is the vibration of the next portal. And there isn't any time period in which you would be fearless except the moment that you're in it. And there is no future. That doesn't exist. You can't go to a store and say, I'll take a box of 2025 and put it in my garage and open it then. And you can't go into your garage and open up 2022 in a box. The only thing that actually exists is this moment, because time is actually, and in science, an illusion. And so there is no in the future. If you say in the future, then what you're really saying is, I don't feel worthy of it now, but one day I hope to. And the universe goes, bet. When you feel worthy of it, we're going to show up for you. But so many people, how they grew up, who had the people in their lives, the things that they saw, the circumstances, they listened to the news, they listened to their parents, they watched the negative stuff on social media, and they're like, oh, we're going to go in a world war and the economy is failing and this. Let me tell you something. I never had a better year than it was COVID. So the universe is always talking. Like, I'd never given blood. I had a fear of needles, but I also kind of had this fear of taking the vaccine and putting stuff into my body because I don't really know what's going on. When they said, it wasn't me. That song? Remember that song?
Shaggy,
I saw her you Shaggy, right? I saw you in the bathroom. It wasn't me. When I saw her in the kitchen, it wasn't me. When someone isn't me, and like, no, this is good for you. Do what we say. My spider senses come up, and I want to be a good citizen, and I want to protect the health of the people. So I just stayed in my house. I was like, well, I'm not going to go nowhere because I don't want this freaking poking me and see what happens. But I'm not going to say nothing because it's very controversial, and people have a lot of opinions about it.
Definitely.
So so I was called to go give blood. And when I go give blood, it was like, the 10th month during COVID. You had to make a special appointment, and that you had to get an STD test, because there was a lot of like issues with that. And so I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm not dating anybody. Like, yeah, like, that's totally fine. Like, I'm clean, I'm drinking my pineapple juice, whatever you need. And I get in there and they gave it, and then the next day they call me back. So the universe had already told me I was protected, already assured me of everything. And you get these senses of things, and through taking psychic classes and being able to kind of read energy better, you become more and more in tune with the universe. And one of the ways that the universe starts communicating with us is through music, through light, electronic fixtures, and through numbers. So if you're thinking about somebody, and then you open up Apple iTunes, or you open up, whatever, and you start to listen to a song, and it's that person's favorite song, you weren't thinking of that person, and then the song came on. The vibration was saying, this person is thinking of you, and here's how we're going to prove it. So it's the same thing like angel numbers. People always talk about saying 444 or 555 or 777 or 666, whatever it is. Everything breaks down to a numeric code in the universe. Every single thing. There's a geometric pattern for every shape, every flower, every cell, everything.
Yeah.
And so if you understand numerology, and JP Morgan said it best, billionaires don't listen to astrology. Millionaires don't listen to astrology. Billionaires do. And so if you think about the people who are in charge and what they do to make us feel bad about being in touch with that dimension, it's a big sham. You know what I'm saying? So if you start seeing angel numbers like 111, 555, whatever it is, it makes you, in your logical human brain, want to go Google what is 444 meaning. But what's actually happening is that they're trying to answer questions, and the only way they know how to communicate with you is through that energy, to send it to you in hopes that you might look it up, to say, yes, we've already answered that. Yes, this is already being taken care of. And so it opens up a portal, a channel for you to keep communicating. And then that's kind of the vibration where it starts. And then whenever you're in a spiritual awakening, everything falls apart and it gets totally destroyed before it gets better.
Yeah.
and that's because the universe is clearing out all of the bad stuff that they don't want you to experience anymore. And they're prepared to make things a lot better.
Whew. And I think a lot of that, what comes into play, at least for me, is like the whole mindset, and like, just like, and I talk about this a lot, but I also watch like who I talk about certain things with, because I don't want like people to feel like I'm pouring certain my beliefs and things. But like, the things that you think become your reality. Your assumptions can definitely show up in your reality. Like, what you assume people and things to be of is what happened, kinds of plays out. So I always preach mindset, because like I'm a product of my own mindset, of course, like what I allow people to see of me. And I just really hope that other people realize that you are so much more powerful than what, like you said, social media, your parents, and society tells you. Because if you just hang on to those things alone, you may get far, but you can get further if you just build your own belief system and your own mindset up. And there are a lot of resources, like you out here, that gets people to that level. So
yes,
I this conversation, I have been so locked in. I just like, I need more, but I know how to get more. I definitely know how to get more. One last question that I want to ask you is, for someone listening right now that has endured something, whether it was in their childhood that was traumatic, or just in their adult life, and they are just trying to navigate life, trying to navigate their healing, and they feel like they are continuing to fall short. What's something that you can recommend for them, or just a positive word of advice you can give to them right now?
So if they have something they haven't forgiven, you mean like they had an atrocity happen to them, or they had something that just really makes them feel negative about this world?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm going to give them a parable that kind of changed my way of thinking about forgiveness by the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer. And Dr. Wayne Dyer gives this really great speech on PBS, and he says, everybody knows that if a poisonous snake bites you, that the venom will get into your bloodstream and then eventually into your muscles and into your arteries and into your veins and into your capillaries. And if it's not taken out, it will give you a heart attack and you'll die. But the snake never looks at giving you the poison as anything negative, because it's just a snake doing its snaky things. And it's moved on to the next person it's going to bite, and the next person it's going to bite. And you're allowing the venom to get into your system and eventually kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at any point in time, you can bend down, go to the bite, suck the venom out, spit it out, and be done with it. And you don't need the permission, and it doesn't take away or give anything to the snake for doing that. And people walk around their entire lives carrying that venom and expecting the snake to die.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't work that way. So the snake never feels negative or guilty about being the narcissist or being the abuser or being the person that victimized you. It's just, that's its job in this world. It's in its villain phase, and it's ready to just bite another person and bite another person and reduce another person to their will.
Mm-hmm.
But at any point in time, you can forgive it. And if you forgive it, you take the poison out and it no longer can impact you.
Mm-hmm.
And when that doesn't work anymore, you become vibrationally different. So are you going to be mad at the snake for doing its job and own you for the rest of your life until you die and cease to live? Or are you going to go in and suck the venom out and take the poison and forgive it or release it and let your life be the life that it's supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
This is all up to you. And I couldn't forgive my father for giving me away. I couldn't forgive the men who hurt me, the women who hurt me, my ex-husband, my mother for dying, the babies who didn't get born. I had so much vitriol and anger that I thought it was at the bottom of the bottle or at the bottom of a bag or at the end of the pill. And it wasn't. It was in me forgiving all of that. And once I was able to forgive and let go, I was able to understand that I was never separate from the creator, which I called God.
Mm-hmm.
And every single cell in your body is an electronic charge, and you have trillions of these cells. And so if you're using all of your life force energy to be angry at a snake for doing its snaky things, then that snake owns you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And now how can you go out there and create with all this poison inside of you? So you have to ask yourself, at what point do you want to save your life, or do you want to die? Because if you're living in these half measures or these quarter measure lives where you're worried to leave the job or leave the relationship or move to the new city or whatever it is, or to step on stage or to start that business or to do whatever it is that you want, then you are always going to be the victim of somebody else. There's going to be another snake and another snake and another snake. But when you're no longer a vibrational match, the snake and you will not be a vibrational match, and therefore it will not appear in your reality. So if you're somebody who's around toxic friends and toxic family members, and you go to work a place you absolutely hate, and they don't understand you, they don't feel like you're appreciated, that's the universe really trying to kick you out and trying to get you to jump into a new realm where you will be seen and you will be heard and you will be validated. But you have to go all the way in, and that takes fearlessness. So start with something small.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive somebody today that just annoyed you. All right. You're in traffic, you see somebody weaving in, even if they're not bugging you yet, but you can see them cutting people off, calling them, like, oh man, they're going to cause a wreck. Oh man, just say, I forgive you. I forgive that. Now, let's say that you go to pick up your pizza tonight from Domino's, and I'm a vegan, so I'm going to say the veggie pizza. And they hand you the pepperoni pizza, okay? And I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not going to get mad about it. Now I'm not going to eat it, but I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm just going to say, hey, this isn't what I ordered. It's totally fine. Can we make me a veggie pizza? Put some jalapenos on that because I like the Latina spicy, and and let's just keep it moving. If you can start to forgive things that aren't the big things, okay, then you start to feel better. You start to loosen up the poison. The poison starts to come out. The anger starts to come through. And all of a sudden, you find that maybe you're getting more green lights than red lights on your way to work. That you go to Starbucks to get a coffee or 7-Eleven, and somebody in front of you in line buys it, or you're in the drive-thru, somebody buys your Taco Bell or buys your Starbucks for you. And you're like, oh my God, I wonder if they'd done that if they knew who I was, and and I mean, and so the universe will start treating you differently. And then if you can really push it, go 7 days without complaining about anything. I mean, nothing. Take a whole, like just taking a sip, take a whole 7 days, and it doesn't matter. You ordered a white chocolate mocha cappuccino and they gave you a ginger latte, drink it. Just drink it, okay? They told you that you didn't need to work today and they called you and tell you have to go to work, go in with a smile. All right. Now you get home, you did everything you need to do, and you're just sitting down to like write some emails and the school calls because your daughter forgot her lunch. Do not get angry. Make that lunch and go to that school with joy and glee and a place in your heart, because maybe she forgot the lunch because she wanted to see if you loved her and you would do these things for her. Okay. Now, every single thing you do for 7 days, no matter how hard it is, even if it's like, but I didn't want, no, that sounds fine. Okay. I understand there's a reason for that. And it's going to be shown to me, and I'm just going to let it go and have that humble pie. At the end of the 7 days, I want you to then sit down and think about receiving one small thing, whether it's a parking spot, whether it's a call from a loved one, maybe it's some sort of unexpected cash that you really need, $50 to get gas in the tank, or whatever it is. Say to the universe, show me how easy, how fun, and how fast you can make this happen. And then jump up and down as if it just happened and watch how fast it will manifest. Mm-hmm. Because in 7 days, you can change small amounts of your vibration where all of a sudden you're a vibrational match to wave instead of particle. And we know in the quantum field and quantum physics that you are either particle, meaning you're heavy, weighted down, or you are wave, so you're in flow. And so in people who are in flow, they're just like, hey, I'd like to see a dolphin. And I look outside and there's a dolphin. And then, hey, I'd like to see a rainbow. And I go on a walk and there's the rainbow. All right. So when you're in flow, it just feels different, moves different. You can manifest a lot faster because you're not tied down to all these insecure, ego-driven ideologies. You're simply in a vibrational universe being vibrational.
Oh, girl, you said a word. You said a word. And the main takeaway for me, and I hope anyone else that's listening to that, is remove the venom. I think that is the overarching thing. And just speaking on forgiveness is probably huge, because a lot of us don't realize that the longer you hold on to these things, they weigh you down,
They own you.
Yeah, they do. I learned that from me being in therapy, dealing with my own sexual abuse and having to learn to forgive my abuser. I'm like, I don't think I need to, but maybe I do, and
you absolutely do.
Just going on, like, you feel so much more relieved, and like, it's not easy, right? Like, it's not easy at all. And sometimes it does take time, and like you said, releasing those people, those toxic people, family, friends, whatever. Just because you forgive a person does not mean you have to reconcile with them. You can forgive.
No, absolutely.
You're forgiven for you.
I forgave my father. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgave my father 5 years after he died.
Yeah.
Sometimes he didn't need to be alive to have that.
Yeah, but
I just didn't. I had to be ready.
Yeah, you deserve that, and I think that's the whole. If we put ourselves at the top of the pedestal and take everyone else and everything else away. We need to treat ourselves better than how we not better than how we treat everyone else, but maybe so, because a lot of times we put so much more into other people that we don't put into ourselves. We pour into everyone else's cup and we neglect our own. Our cups are just all cracked and stuff, and they're not overflowing, which they should be. I always say you cannot pour from a cracked cup, because if a cup is cracked and it's never going to overflow. It's never going to experience overflow. So, don't get me started.
Well, like,
all a ramble.
well, like Oprah says, well, Oprah says, it's not selfish, it's self-full.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not full of yourself, how can you cheer somebody on? How can you help somebody else? How can you be a light in this world? If you expect the light to be in your life, if you're over here like talking to the man in the sky, as you might believe it, it's not. He's with you in this moment. You're not separate. There's not this white dude on a cloud like, let me open up the book of you and let me see. Okay. And if you're not your number one cheerleader,
sorry, probably just shook some tables with that one, but I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, come on now. Like, let's take it to the Bible real quick. All right. There's only one time in the Bible where Moses says to God, but what shall we call you? And he says, I am that you say I am. And so anytime you say I am, the next word is what you are. Mm-hmm. And you and God are not separate. Mm-hmm. There isn't, like, he's not over in some guest house waiting for you to open the door and being like, oh, great, Michelle's awake. Now I'm with her. Mm-hmm. No. Every bit of it, you are with that creator energy. And so if you created chaos and distress and pandemonium and fear, you can also create safety and luxury and love and success.
Absolutely.
There isn't this like spiritual accountant that has some sort of ledger and it's like, oh, wait a second, Beyonce's got 40 million up. There's not enough for Michelle. She only gets 300,000. Sorry. Like, that's not happening. If you've ever gone to a movie, you don't go to the movie thinking like, oh yeah, that story is real, unless it's a documentary, right? You go for the fantasy of it, to get yourself out of your mind and to watch the scary, I don't say scary movies, but to watch, watch the high-speed chase, the action movie, the whatever movie you're wanting to see, or if it's a comedy or whatever it is, you go to get escapism. But what if you just had escapism for your life? Mm-hmm. And you said, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm writing my own movie script. And from this point forward, there's a plot twist. And the plot twist is Michelle's the main character. She's no longer Cinderella with the stepsisters telling her to wash the clothes and live in the basement. She woke up and put the crown on, the dress formed, all the little birds came around and the walk out the door and the golden carriage is out there. Eventually, that's exactly what will be created in your reality. And if you're saying, no, that's not possible, well, then what you're saying is you don't believe in God. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe in God, and you don't believe in a creator energy, well, then you've missed the whole point of being here. Because God is asking you, saying, okay, you had these trials and tribulations. What you going to do about it? Are you going to give up on light bulb 977 or are you going to hit 1,000? Right. And so we're here to co-collaborate with that creator and say, you know what? Those lessons were great. Those lessons were good. And here's what I'm going to do with them. Mm-hmm. And so now you're living in a reality in which all of a sudden, everything that you desire, whether it's a beautiful home or a wonderful life, just becomes part of your existence. I mean, if you had told me in 2016, when I was attempting to unalive myself, that one day I would get paid to be on stages and be on TV segments and speak at universities, have an award-winning podcast, make 6 figures showing up authentically as Michelle Juanita Lamont, and have, in just 3 years, have 22 people email me. Now I have hundreds and hundreds of other letters 22 people tell me that they did not commit suicide because they found my podcast. That's 22 people's souls who are not having funerals, who are not wondering what they could have done to help them, help their daughter, help their son, help their child, whatever it was, because I stepped up and I took a risk and I hit record and I started a podcast. So what do you think God is going to do with you if you actually show the fuck up for yourself? You've helped all these other people. What it gets you? For what? Nothing. And the reason why is because that wasn't the plan. The plan was for you to be selfish and to be self-full. Because it is selfish for somebody else to ask you to give up something for them. Mm. It's selfish that they're asked, well, are you going to leave and you're going to leave me here all alone? I'm not doing nothing. You can go wherever you want to go. You can be with whoever I am leaving. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now you can do whatever you want. I'm quitting this job. I don't care if you don't have enough staff. Not my problem. YP, UP. Your problem, my problem. Right. So that's a YP or an MP. Right. So, So all I'm saying to you is, what if it does work out? And what would that life manifest into? And then all the people who are watching you and doubting you and almost rooting for you to fail are also rooting for you to succeed, because if you make it and you do it, then there's a possibility that they could do it too and they could make it. Mm-hmm. So your haters are actually your motivators and your cheerleaders, and they're just living in a fear-based reality. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, wait a second, let me see what she's doing over there. Wait, how'd she get that? And she got what? And this happened and that happened?
Because they always watching.
Always
watching.
I'll have like on my stories, I never see who watches it, but I just look at the number, and there's like, yesterday I did a little post with a song about like 5 things that my clients won't be doing in 2024. 3,000 people watched that story. 6 people hearted it. 3,000 people couldn't get 100 hearts, couldn't get 50 hearts, right? They're like, okay, let me see what she's doing. Okay. And the people who signed up for my coaching and the people who signed up for my classes and the people who are taking my next live workshop, they already know the deal, you know. In the last 3 months, my students, my clients, and my digital courses have yielded people manifesting close to $360,000. And by just stepping in, just saying, hey, I'm going to try. Hey, I'm going to do it. And so if you were to take that risk, what would you want the outcome of that movie to look like? And if you just concentrate on the final ending, like for me, all I wanted was for people to have a voice, for somebody who wasn't judging them or wasn't looking down at them, and who was vulnerable as I am with everything I talk about on my podcast and in my real life, because everybody's over here trying to look perfect. I'm not. I'm like, here's my stretch marks, here's my cellulite, you know, like, hey, this is what happened, this is what I did, this is how it happened. And I only had Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he had already passed away. And so I knew that there was a lot of people out there that might benefit from me stepping into that version of myself. And as scary as it was, as intimidating as it was, the one thing I never thought was, I wonder how many people are going to listen. Because to me, it was like, if one person listened, it would matter, because every soul mattered. Yeah. And now it's just kind of a runaway train of awesomeness.
Pure awesomeness. And again, girl, I could listen to you all day, and I have been listening to you for the last few years, and just watch your life just
manifest.
Definitely. Like, so again, I really appreciate this conversation. It fed my soul, and I truly hope that it touched someone else's life and gave them the feeding that they may have been lacking. We talked about your coaching and your podcast. Can you tell everyone where they can find all of your your podcast, your social medias, all of that lovely information, and how they can get tapped in with you if they want to consider coaching or something?
Sure. So I keep it really simple. KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Michelle J Lamont. MichelleJLamont.com. Michelle J Lamont on TikTok. Michelle J Lamont. You type Michelle J Lamont onto the internet, you're just going to find me. Okay. There's only one. And the other Michelle is a Harvard professor, and you'll know immediately because there's no J.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you just go to michellejlamont.com, and every Tuesday, twice a month on Tuesday, I do a free 10-minute Zoom, just to say, okay, like, hey, I think you should take a digital course, or I think you should take a live course, or I think you should do one-on-one coaching, or here's a book I think you should be working on and reading, and so on and so forth. Because I do genuinely want to see people succeed and be happy and move forward in this life and allow themselves to get back up. Because the only person, it's not your enemy, it's not your hater, it's not your abuser, it's not whatever it is. The only person who's stopping you from having the life that you want is the person that you see in the mirror every single day.
Absolutely.
And, and so all I'm asking you to do is try.
I love that. And that is the perfect way to close out this lovely segment, is try. And I'm laughing because I remember in the video that you did, this was probably a while ago, you was like, Google me, baby. Like, you can literally Google me. And I'm like, okay, with the sass, okay. But again,
But did you Google me?
yeah, I mean, I've Googled
See?
you before. Like,
Yeah.
but for people that don't have that type of like confidence and sass, it's something to definitely work up to, Google
Sure.
me. Like, I have my credentials. You want to know who I am? You want to see what I do? Google me. I love it. I love it. I love it. And again,
I'm Googleable.
yes, and y'all, I will have all of her information listed in
Okay.
the description box, so you can go tap
Thank you.
in with Michelle, and
Yes.
she can feed your soul on a daily basis because she posts content on all of her social medias, um, daily, some really good things, and she will pour into you, and you may not even know you need it. So. Yes, definitely go tap into her. And again, thank you so much for coming on Chronicles of a Virgo podcast. Like, this conversation, oh girl, meant everything. I appreciate it so much.
It's been my honor. And if you ever have a slot that's open and you don't have it, you can always call me again.
Yes, thank you. All right, y'all. Did y'all enjoy the conversation? I told you that Miss Michelle J Lamont was bringing it today. And after this episode, I hope that everyone is feeling inspired and empowered to just live their best life. Okay. Because me going back, listening to the episode, because this was recorded a couple months ago, but it just put me in it put me on such a high. So I am so grateful, Miss Michelle. Thank you so much for tapping in and coming on to Chronicles of a Virgo platform with all of your expertise, for getting vulnerable, for telling your story, and just for being so inspiring. Thank you so much. And you are always welcome back here at Chronicles of a Virgo platform. And for everyone that stayed this far, I truly appreciate your support, your love, and I hope that this conversation has been an eye opener somewhere in your life where you find fit to just grow, to prosper, and to just stand in your power and know that you deserve better, and know that you are co creators of your life as well, because 2024 is about thriving. And it's just about being a better us, okay? And if you need to go back and take some more notes from what Miss Michelle said, please, by all means, do that. And please share this episode with someone else that you may think or know that it can resonate with, okay? So all of Michelle's information will be listed in the description box. So please go follow her, go tap into her platform, go listen to Manifesting Miracles, because you will be filled, okay? And again, tap in with your girl on social media, Chronicles of a Virgo podcast, on all of the platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Send me a DM, or if you're someone that want to connect, whether you want to come on my show or you would like me to come on your platform, you can either DM me or send me an email at chroniclesofavirgo22@gmail.com. Okay. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you found something to take with you from this or put in your pocket for a later date. Either way, thank you guys for your support. I truly do appreciate it. And until next time, good people, please continue to take care of yourselves, but also continue to take care of each other. Peace out.